Nothing can stop me, I'm all the way.
How's it going, guys? Public Safety Network here. Today we're going to do another on the job. I know I said I kind of spaced them out a little bit, but it seems like this is what people are super interested in, and so that's what I'm going to give you. So for today's topic, we're going to go on the job with executive protection. Most people in the security industry know what executive protection is. Even a lot of people outside the industry know what it is. It's pretty much a service that is provided to usually higher profile clientele who have security concerns. So they hire out companies to basically provide them close protection. It goes by other names such as close protection, personal protection, in some case bodyguards. You know, these are all names you're going to see thrown around a lot, and they all pretty much mean the same thing, as they usually just provide protection for a specific person versus other security, which usually is for a specific site or location. Now, kind of what does an executive protection entail? I would kind of classify executive protection as there's two different, there's ones where they protect the person themselves, and there's also residential security, which I think kind of falls under that umbrella as well, where they protect the residents of the person. Executive protection teams are different scales of operation. You have some that are incredibly small, maybe one, maybe two guys that fall around someone on their day-to-day job, all the way up to the high-level executive protections you see performed in overseas countries like Iraq and Afghanistan, or places in the Middle East, where powerful CEOs or even some government officials will hire private military companies to protect them while they are overseas. And again, there are different scales of operation based on security needs. I've seen different type of clientele for these types of situations, from, like I said, again, from high-powered CEOs all the way down to maybe your local insurance agent or surgeon who has some security concerns. I said they entail different things. There's different elements. A lot of really good executive protection companies will have forwarding teams, which means that they will go to locations ahead of time and try to kind of scout maybe what is the best location for whatever the client wants to do, whether it's eating or maybe an activity, and they will go and forward and scout locations ahead of time to see which will meet their security needs. Other things that they do is they may have armored vehicles. These are like the classic black Chevy Tahoes with blacked out windows that you see in movies. Armored vehicles come in all shapes and sizes. There's SUVs, there's sedans. They come from all over. One of the biggest companies, I think, is was it Texas Armored International, I believe it's called, and they specialize in providing armored vehicles for government and executive protection. A lot of companies also too have intelligence gathering, while they can research threats and against the client, and so these are all kind of components of executive protection. A lot of them behind the scenes that a lot of people tend to not see, but they all work well in order to kind of serve the clients and whatever their security needs are. Another one I kind of touched at the very beginning is bodyguards. Bodyguards tend to be a little bit different because they tend to live with their protectee 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. They may live in the house or an adjacent house, whereas most executive protection teams tend to go home and they work on a shift basis, where they'll work so many hours and then go home and then come back the next day. For a duration of time, it could be 1 day, it could be 6 months, and this is kind of where bodyguards tend to be a little different than your standard executive protection. Where they tend to live with their protectee versus executive protection agents who usually tend to work on a shift basis. Now, a lot of questions I get asked a lot is, how do you become an executive protection agent, officer, whatever you want to call it? Well, there's two kind of different parts to it. There's the regulatory, and then there's the practical. When it comes to regulations, executive protection is regulated at the state level, which means that the state kind of sets whatever parameters they want in order to operate as an executive protection agent or company. In some states, like I know Texas is one I see that gets thrown around a lot. They have different levels of security licensing. Level 2, level 3, which I believe is commissioned, and then level 4, which is classified as personal protection. In order to operate in the state of Texas, you need a level 4 license in order to do so. In my state, it's a little different. You need an armed security license given out by the state police, and then also a concealed weapons permit, also given out by the same agency. And so you kind of need to look into your state regulations in order to kind of determine what you need to do in order to be able to operate in that type of capacity. So that's the regulatory. Now we're going to kind of get to the practical. I'm going to tell kind of how it is. It is very, very difficult to get legit executive protection work. Most executive protection companies want guys who have usually experience, whether that is in the private sector or whether that's from a military or law enforcement background, but they tend to want experience. Now, there are schools out there that you can go to that will teach you a lot of the trade, I don't want to say secrets, but parts of doing type of VIP and executive protection work. I think the two that I see get thrown around the most a lot are it's Gavin DeBecker and Associates and Las Sora, guys, I'm sorry, I butchered the name. I think it's Las Soria and Associates. Those are the two ones I see to get thrown around a lot. I'm actually in a few executive protection groups on Facebook, and those are the names I tend to see it pop up the most. Read about them online. They seem very good at what they do. I've never personally taken a course with them, but go ahead and do your own independent research, see what's out there. But you have to realize, though, is because there isn't really a regulatory agency that oversees the legitimacy of a lot of these schools, you need to make sure that what you're getting what you pay for, and that the person teaching the course has real-world understanding of how executive protection and bodyguard services work. However, a lot of times the school isn't going to be enough. Again, most companies are going to want real world experience, and the question is, how do you get real world experience without getting a job? And a lot of times you're going to have to do really low level, bottom of the barrel jobs and kind of start building up your resume and references to get better and better clients, or obviously get picked up by a company that wants to hire you as an executive protection agent. So be very wary of companies, though. A lot of them state that they perform executive protection services, and I've actually touched on this in a previous video. Most of them don't. In my state alone, there are very few companies that offer real personal protection or close protection services. There aren't that many. Most people advertise and they either embellish actual jobs that they've done, or they just don't offer the service at all, but they just have it up on their website as pretty much something that they can boost their reputation with. So you guys really need to do a lot of research into companies. If you're going in for what appears to be an executive protection type job, you need to ask a lot of questions about what type of training their personnel have, and quite a few others. So you need to do due diligence, because I don't want to see anyone get scammed by a school or take a job that wasn't what they thought it was. So these are all things that you really need to consider, guys, when you decide to get in this line of work, because it will happen. That's all I really have today. I'm not an expert in executive protection. These are all things that I've talked to people in the industry, done my own independent research, and so this is kind of just an accumulation of what I've kind of gathered. So don't take it, anything I say as gospel, because again, I'm no expert. If you happen to know somebody that's in the executive protection field, talk to them about it. They'll probably have a better first-hand knowledge than I will. This was more of just an overview of kind of the industry as a whole and some more general expectations. But when it gets into specifics, talk to someone who's been there, done that. But thanks for watching again, guys. I'm really glad to be putting out these videos. I see channel growth almost every single day, which I'm very excited about. And I hope you guys keep enjoying the content. Like I said, if you have any other suggestions for videos, go ahead and throw them down in the comment section, or you can find me on Reddit or Facebook, or really any of the social media platforms. Or if you're an executive protection agent, throw down in the comment section, throw down maybe you could clarify some things that maybe I misinterpreted or got incorrect, or maybe you can back up and say, yeah, and that's exactly how it is. But thanks for watching, guys. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and have a good day out there, guys.